What if we switched the types of SINNOH starter Pokemon? What if we switched their secondary types the other way around? I'm Jord, and this is the third and final part of the SINNOH type swap series. We answered those questions in the previous two videos, so go watch them if you haven't already. All that's left now is to see the end result.
Wow!
Designing Emperado was tricky because Empoleon doesn't really change that much from Prinplup. I honestly always found their evolutionary line kind of underwhelming. They're kind of hard to work with in that regard. My first drafts looked too much like Prinplup with a smaller head, so I tried pushing the fighting type bulky look in various ways. I also tried making Empoleon swole like Conkeldurr, but that turned out pretty god-awful, more like Potamping Guilty Gear from Wish than a Pokemon. The actual look I wanted to aim for was that man without a name Clint Eastwood vibe, but that's obviously a bit harder when you're working with a giant cactus-skinned penguin. In hindsight, I think I would have been better off to almost completely abandon Empoleon's design DNA in favor of a cowboy feel. I drew this half a year ago though, so I honestly don't remember what my exact thought process was. The mariachi band idea came to me while working on Empoleon, and I went back to change Prinplup's boxing gloves too.
Emperado, the lone Pokemon. Emperado travels the desert at night in search of worthy foes, playing a marching rhythm with his hollow fruits. It is said that the haunting melodies created by this Pokemon can drive even the strongest men to tears, and serves as a warning for any bullies to steer clear. As the sun rises, Emperado collects dew in their wide-brimmed hat and seek out travelers lost in the desert to share its water with. When it is alone and thinks no one is looking, this Pokemon is known to dance to the rhythm of its rattling fruits.
You should comment on the video now!
Designing Forgeterra was very fun and very challenging. I knew I wanted its design to embody the idea of industry, like a walking factory, and it was very important to me that its design won't overlap with Heatrans, since they're both Fire, Steel, Lava Pokemon. I had to fiddle a lot with the details on its shell, and it took me a bit to find the geometric look I was looking for. The towers and coolant on its back went through a bunch of permutations, but ultimately I'm happy with how they look. Using the vapors as a substitute for the treetop is a touch I still like. The colors were relatively simple, but still took a couple of tries to get right, finding that balance between the earthy brown from the original evolutions and the chunky metal parts. I kept the red color on the shell, which makes the whole thing look a bit like a mining hat. I'm not sure if that was the right decision, as the color scheme ends up looking layered a bit like a sandwich, but I think I tried to add a black trim to the shell off screen and it just didn't look right. Oh, and you can see I sampled Gimmighoul's coin for the nose, which I find kind of funny. As a whole, I think the design ended up similar to Grottl's, very tight, correct, with nothing crazy new about it. The silhouette's different enough that you can tell it's Torterra, but with something different about it. I think if I pushed it as hard as I wanted to, it wouldn't have been recognizable as Torterra anymore, which would go outside the plan for the series.
Forgeterra, the industry Pokemon. Forgeterra claims entire volcanoes as its home, regulating the flow of magma to prevent eruptions and shaping them into perfectly organized habitats for all the Pokemon living within. It is addicted to the taste of petroleum and will fight humans for access to it, crushing cars to guzzle every drop of gasoline inside them. The tower on Forgeterra's back burns at over 2,000 degrees, and in battle its body emits an unbearable cacophony of metallic clangs and screeches.
Infernape's design is the culmination of the Atlantis Hoplite concept, and I think I did a decent job with it. In my first iterations, I made its mask a lot bigger, more like a tiki mask, but I ended up pulling it back a little and focusing more on the head spike for size and silhouette change. I wanted to retain Infernape's speedster look, and I pretty much made up my mind about what the pose will be before I even started drawing it. The tail was a bit of a struggle, and the final look for it is fine. I'm very happy with the colors. I think it all comes together in a way Chinchar and Monferno's design just didn't, while still tying into Golurk's design without overlapping with it too much. The pink touches on the ears and fingers especially help it stand out. The watermelon on the back of its head is the only part I'm dissatisfied with. It's the right material, in the right shape, in the right place, but my rendering skills just aren't quite there yet. The fur was a big challenge, and I couldn't figure out what to do with it until it clicked in my mind that I can just turn it into a mud texture, since I already used a lot of material substitutes across this design series.
Inundape, the Temple Guard Pokemon. Inundape will go on long underwater expeditions in search of their lost city, and those that eventually find it are compelled to stand guard over its ruined remains, but eventually grow tired of their meaningless vigil. Many return to shore for a brief time before guilt overtakes them and they return to their duty. Inundape is an agile swimmer and likes to show off its speed, exposing its crest above the waterline before suddenly jumping high in the air.
So that's the SINNOH series done, for now. I might do another pass on these in the future to see what would happen if I pushed everything to the absolute max. Maybe I'll do megaforms eventually too. Let me know if you'd like to see that. Congratulations, you've made it to the end. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, etc, etc. And if you have any ideas of your own of what I should draw next, feel free to comment down below. Bye bye.